Tensegrity, biotensegrity, and applied biotensegrity, a matter of clarification. In the last century, the structural innovation popularly called tensegrity was developed. It may have been developed in Russia in the 20s, we're not sure. Jorgensen's uh, items were all lost. Snelson and Emmerich each came up with it separately, working on either side of the Atlantic, and each of these three had different names for what it was they were building. The person whose work inspired biotensegrity was Kenneth Snelson, and we follow his definition because we find it works best for biology. And here it is. Tensegrity describes a closed structural system composed of a set of three or more elongate compression struts within a network of tension tendons. The combined parts mutually supportive in such a way that the struts do not touch one another but press outwardly against nodal points in the tension network to form a firm, triangulated, pre-stressed tension and compression unit. So once built, there is a quality of oneness to these structures. Remarkably, as Phil Earnhardt puts it, this is only the second way that humans have ever figured out how to build. So think about that, hundreds of thousands of years of human culture and only two ways to build. And so tensegrity structures, again, built out of two components, could be considered struts and cables. The struts are under compression, the cables are under tension, and they are in a very specific configuration. But we're going to stay on the subject of tensegrity for another minute or two because there's another distinction we need to make. We need to distinguish between tensegrity, the structure, and tensegrity, the word, because they're really not the same. Tensegrity structure, as we've seen, is made out of two components, struts under compression, cables under tension. But tensegrity, the word, is also made out of two components, the word, tension, and the word, integrity. And the word tensegrity is an invention, a portmanteau, invented by Buckminster Fuller, combining these two words. But words are not building materials. So, if you hear someone say, as I often have, this is a tensegrity, it's made out of tension and integrity. No, the word is made out of tension and integrity, but a tensegrity structure is made out of two components, sticks and strings, struts and cables. This is a different thing. So there we have it. Tensegrity models are inanimate configurations that are very specific, and there's a whole field of mathematics that studies just the theoretical aspect of this. So all of that is in the category of tensegrity. So if that's tensegrity, what is biotensegrity? And for biotensegrity, we follow Stephen Levin's definition. Okay? It's the theory of tensegrity in biology, applying the principles of tensegrity as expressed by Snelson to life forms. That extends up and down the scale of all living things, tiny to huge, from viruses to vertebrates, their systems and subsystems. So, what we're studying here is a natural science. This is a life science. It's part of biology. It has to do with animate, living beings, living organisms. And there is no agreed upon definition for life, but we can look at it as being the ability of a structure to reproduce itself. Biotensegrity is a basic science. It's part of what's called the pure sciences. It's studied without regard to practical applications. We're just studying the biology for itself. We follow the biology. John Barnes says you have to be like the curious cat. Carol Davis spoke to me about this recently, and that's the idea. You're just listening to, following the biology. You don't have a goal beyond the learning itself. You don't have an agenda. And here's the thing that doesn't include these two categories, tensegrity, biotensegrity, don't include many of the people who have an interest in biotensegrity. Many of the early adopters of biotensegrity do have an agenda. They are trying to develop practical applications. So, what is it that we can call what these people are doing? What branch of research are they working in? So, we've been uh, trying to figure this out lately. And what we're moving to is that we need to look at people who are biotensegrity aware, biotensegrity inspired, biotensegrity informed. They may be developing inventions, innovations, practical applications. They may be doing engineering, problem solving. They do have an agenda. There are people who are doing bio-inspired engineering. What category of work are they working in? What about someone who's making biotensegrity-inspired garden ornaments? What about the NASA teams who are working on tensegrity superbots? Or a person who's making volumetric poetry inspired by biotensegrity? What about someone who's trying to improve how prostheses are made? What about a competitive sports person who is trying to improve their performance without compromising their body, without inducing injury? And they're looking to biotensegrity as a way of informing them so they can get better answers about what it is they're trying to do. So we've been trying to figure out how to define or create a room of the house for the people who are working in all these areas. And here's what we are coming up with right now. Applied biotensegrity and that which is biotensegrity inspired. All of these people are biotensegrity aware. Some of them are more biotensegrity informed than others, but they're trying to use their understanding of biotensegrity to do something that goes beyond the biology itself and the study of the biology itself. And this is a really huge field. Now, the people who are knitting biotensegrity inspired sweaters or building garden ornaments or dancing, or that is all a very open category. We're thinking of that as being biotensegrity inspired. But the people who are studying biotensegrity and tensegrity in order to improve their work with their own bodies, with other people's bodies, with animals, just any number of different areas. These are these are people who are working in what we're thinking now about as calling applied biotensegrity. We take that concept from the applied sciences, although certainly not all of these areas may be science areas. And inevitably, if we're working in particularly applied biotensegrity, you can't do that, right, without understanding something about biotensegrity. You certainly can't work in biotensegrity without understanding about something about tensegrity. So very often people are flowing between all these different areas. Somebody may learn about biotensegrity and be inspired to start building these garden ornaments or something. And that building process can reveal something, even though now they're in the more artistic realm of things, that can then call back and inspire their work in applied biotensegrity. So these are not watertight boundaries. There isn't one that's better than the other. Um, but what we're trying to do now is just help to clarify our understanding of what it is we're doing so that we can communicate more clearly between us as we work together and go forward as a community of common interest. So thank you very much.